Hi everyone, welcome to Overdose and Chill. I'm Jodie, the Managing Director for Overdose New Zealand. Just for those of you who've joined us today, we're broadcasting live on Facebook, YouTube and LinkedIn. So to the audience, if you want to drop any questions or comments in, feel free to do that on the platform and we'll get to them as we chat through. But Overdose and Chill is where we get to chat to a retail partner. And I'm really excited to say that today we've got Bendon, one of New Zealand's and Australia's most iconic brands, with us today. Welcome to Jennie, who is the GM of Digital. Hi, how are you, Jennie?
Kia ora, Jodie. Great to be here.
It's amazing to have you today. Thank you so much for joining us, especially at this crazy time of the year, 17th of December. Thank you for taking time out of your diary. How have you been keeping?
Yeah, really well, thank you. It's
Yeah.
definitely been a challenge working from home. Our sales have skyrocketed through lockdown in Australia and New Zealand. And trying to keep that momentum and that energy with 3 kids at home, online schooling, and a renovation to boot.
Oh my gosh, you've been absolutely busy. Renovation and 3 children. I take my hat off to you. Well done for that. I bet you're looking forward to a little bit of a break over the Christmas period. Yeah.
Roll on
Yeah.
Christmas, yeah.
And also you started at Bendon earlier in the year, I believe. You've been there for 5 or so months, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's cool. So I just wondered, Jennie, maybe if you could just for the viewers out there, if you could just tell us a little bit about you, I guess your career, where you've come from, a little bit about your story.
Absolutely. Yeah, I actually started my career in marketing a very, very long time ago now. But I always gravitated towards digital and customer data. That was always stuff that I took responsibility for. In fact, built my first website in 1998.
Wow.
So when my husband and I decided to go traveling, we went to London. He has a British passport, but I was on a working holiday visa, which said that I couldn't work in my chosen profession. And so I sort of slid sideways into digital formally then, and have never looked back really. So cut my teeth in the UK, came back here in 2005 and ran e-commerce for Flight Centre, moved on to
Wow.
telecom where I had more of a UX focus,
Mhm.
ran my own business for a few years while my children were little and I could kind of balance, young kids and
Yeah.
part-time working. And then about 4 years ago, it felt like the right time to kind of commit to more hours and the next step in my career. So I actually worked for an agency for 4 years, and worked with some of New Zealand's top organisations like Air New Zealand, and Countdown Supermarkets, helping them on their user experience, which kind of brings me up to this year. So I decided that I was ready to take on a bigger challenge,
Mhm.
and the role at Bendon was super attractive because not only is it kind of you know the decision now rests with me rather than lobbying and persuading the decision makers. But I am a dyed in the wool Bendon fan. I've worn nothing else for the last 30 years. Even when I was living in London, I'm a super fan of the brand, and what it represents. So, yeah, it was a really exciting move for me. And then, yeah, really thrown straight in the deep end, as you know, with what this year has thrown at us.
Yes, well, it's great to have you on board, I have to say. And I guess, I mean, that's an amazing career, spanning a whole lot of different experience. Can you tell me, or share maybe with the viewers, maybe I guess one of your career highlights? What's been the biggest highlight of your career to date?
I mean, there's definitely one that I'm super passionate about. It starts with kind of a bit of a dry story of information architecture, which isn't
Mhm.
everybody's bag, but I absolutely love
Yeah.
it. So I led a project for Countdown Supermarkets to overhaul the way that products are structured on their website. They hadn't really had a lot of love in the 20 years that that ecom website had been around, and they'd bloated to more than 6,000 categories. And so
Mhm.
my role was really to take a customer first lens on, needs and behaviors, how people actually group their shopping and really overhaul the product categories. And as part of doing that, I was able to reduce the number of categories by 90%, and the number of first choices that you have to make by more than 50%. So that was a key goal, was to kind of simplify and standardize the categories. But I was also looking for areas where we needed to modernize and update our language. And when I was looking through the personal care category, I sort of stumbled over sanitary products, and I was really thinking, well, what does sanitation have to do with period products? Because it's not like there's a bunch of other things in there that have a similar purpose. It's not toilet paper, it's not tissues. It's purely, what some people would call the feminine hygiene products. And feminine hygiene and sanitary products, it just felt really euphemistic to me. And so I sort of challenged the business to say, could we do something that nobody else is doing and actually call a spade, or a period.
Yeah.
So I was able to persuade Countdown to change the online category from sanitary products to period care, because if you can have hair care and skin care, why not period care? And initially, that was just a decision that we made, and it tested really, really well with customers for the online categories. But they really took ownership of that change and rolled it out in store as well. So now, if you walk into any Countdown supermarket in New Zealand, instead of saying sanitary products, it says period care on the aisle. And then because they're part of a wider group now, Woolworths in Australia online and in all their stores, it also says period care. And then the warehouse in New Zealand also followed suit. So that was kind of a world first change. I wasn't expecting it to be, because it caught headlines and everything. I wasn't quite expecting
Well
it
done.
to have those kind of shock waves. But it's like the little idea that could. And that's something I'm really passionate about, is
Yeah.
normalizing what it is to be a woman, and to just have those conversations with
Yeah.
each other about things that happen to everyone that shouldn't necessarily need to be in hushed tones. Periods are perfectly normal. Puberty is normal. Menstruation is normal. Menopause is normal. It's all normal, and we should be free to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, wow, that's amazing. Well done for pioneering that change. I mean, it's that's a huge change in direction for those brands. And I guess from a perspective of Bendon, they're really lucky to have you on board. Also thinking about some changes. So thinking about Bendon, actually, do you want to just kind of tell us a little bit about Bendon, who the brand is, what does it stand for, a little bit of the history, where it started, perhaps?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's 1947, so it's
Yeah.
quite a long history.
Wow.
But I'm happy to talk a little bit about where it started and
Mhm.
how it's evolved, because it's actually, it's really close to my own personal values.
Mm.
So Bendon was founded in 1947 by two brothers, and it is a literal brand name. They wanted to create lingerie that bends on to a woman's body.
Mhm.
And I guess, comfort and fit and innovation was all there in that one statement, and it's the thread that continues on with our brand today.
Mhm.
And so we have a clear vision, which is to make all women feel confident and comfortable for life. And that's so right up my alley. Like, I really believe in where we're going and the values that we have as an organization. And a lot of those things, they've been there for that entire company life cycle. But Anna, who's our CEO, and the team that she has gathered around her, we're really, living and breathing these values and that vision today, which is really exciting.
That's great.
But
That's
there has been, yeah, there has been a big evolution.
Mhm.
I think if anybody is aware of Bendon lingerie, historically, there's probably quite a strong association with Al McPherson.
Mhm.
So Al
Yes.
McPherson was the face and the body of Bendon lingerie for something like 15 years. And then later that changed to Heidi Klum.
Yeah.
But today, we're a house of brands. including 5 women's lingerie brands and 2 men's brands. And we're standing on our own 2 feet without that kind of celebrity association that once was, what made us a household name. And through those different brands, we're able to truly offer something for everyone with different styles and fashions, as well as sort of unique construction for different body types and fabrications as well. So, to put it into real terms, the needs and desires of a 20-year-old with very young breasts who's wanting fashionable bralettes and doesn't need a lot of support. It can be serviced today alongside the needs of more mature women who want things like, wider straps, more structure, maybe front closures. So I think with the diversity of the brands that we offer now, but staying true to that beautiful, high quality lingerie, we really are living that, every woman confident and comfortable for life.
Yeah, and I think that's you're right. That's really evident with the brands that you stock, like say your house brands. It is for everyone. For every woman can find something within the store, within the ranges, which is awesome. And I guess part of the evolution I'd say is Bendon's online offering over the last few years. So obviously bringing online into into the marketplace, and how Bendon operates digitally. And I guess if you look at look at the sites and look at some of the features and functions that you've brought on board recently, it is continually evolving. How are you changing the way that Bendon operates digitally? I guess where have you come from and where are you headed to over the next couple of years or so? What's your
Yeah.
ambitions?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, where we've come from is much like all retailers, and that digital started off being a brochure. It was a place to find us, a place to go to see who are you and where do I find you in the real world, and that's evolved significantly to already being more than 10% of our revenue, and we're just kind of working on making sure that we can keep up with demand with best practice in terms of e-tailing. But there's really kind of 3 focuses, I think, for the next year or 2, for me in particular. So one of the things that actually attracted me to the role in the first place is the remit to harness our customer data and to drive a more personalized, relevant customer experience in all channels. So my data remit is not just for digital. So that will be a key focus for us. The second one is that with my UX background, really seeking to elevate the digital experience to best of breed in the fashion category. One of the biggest challenges there for me is fit. Because our brand is the fit experts. And I quickly discovered when I joined Bendon that breast size and shape is as unique and individual as foot size and shape. So for me, being able to give buyer confidence for bra purchases is, potentially the hardest piece of clothing to do digitally.
Yeah.
Like, you go buy a shirt or a pair of shoes, most items of clothing and footwear would have 5 to 10 size options available. Whereas because of the combination of back size and cup size, we currently offer around 70
Yeah.
different size options to our customers. So my challenge is to try and create a digital fit experience that can rival our superior in-store fit experience. And I got lots of fun ideas of how we might be able to do that, but you might just have to watch this space.
Okay. Can't share it yet, but we'll share it soon, right?
And then the last one, which is a real biggie, is that while we are a household name in New Zealand, unquestionably, we do see a significant growth opportunity in our Australian neighbours, which we actually plan to tackle not through big growth in retail doors, but by actually reaching new customers through digital.
Okay, that's brilliant. That's great. We've had a question come in, Jenny. So, is there competition or preferences when selling your own in-house brands like Me by Bendon versus Heidi Klum?
That's a really interesting perception,
Yeah.
actually. So, the Heidi Klum brand no
Mhm.
longer exists. So,
Mm.
where the naming rights and the existence of that brand have disappeared. However, there were certain signature styles that predated even Heidi that go back as far as Al McPherson. So, there's at least half a dozen profiles that we stock that people have been able to buy for all that time. And so, rather than competing with it, Me by Bendon has picked up those styles and those loyal customers, and these people will just not wear anything else. They're absolutely passionate, and we get that feedback through every day. That I'm so glad that I can still, buy my Sophia or my Keyhole Boost that I've always bought.
Yeah.
So yeah, actually all of the brands that we stock, all of those 7 brands, which includes Bendon Me by Bendon, Fayreform, Pleasure State, Lovable, Bendon Man and Davenport. Oh, what a
Mhm.
mouthful. Um,
Really
they are all designed, manufactured and
right.
sold by us. So there's no competition.
Yeah, okay, that's great. And you're right. When you find something that fits and it fits well, you want to keep buying that, right? Because it's comfortable and it's just, when it works, it works. And the best thing is having that continuation. To
But
cut,
it's funny that you say that because honestly, like sometimes I think we make life harder for ourselves because
yeah,
we actually say we have customers that say, I've been wearing this bra for 10 years and it's finally died. And I'm so glad I can replace it with the exact same thing. It's like, how many other things in your wardrobe do you have and wear for 10 years?
yeah,
Maybe the
yeah.
odd coat.
Well, oh, that's interesting. So your customers, your customers, they must be super thrilled with being able to get that continuation and also the ever, evolving brands, especially around that fashion space. I guess just thinking about customers, because I can see that it's a real passion of yours, especially with some of the work that you've done in your career to date to where you are now, and hearing you talk about, the fit and how it works for women. So how, think about customers, how do you think Bendon can evolve its relationship with customers in the future?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is something that I'm super passionate about. One of
Mm,
our values as a business, and there's only 4 of them, one of our values is customer first.
mm,
And we live and breathe that. We have a lot of customer touch points and we bring a lot of insight and everything into the operations of the business. But I really see myself as the vanguard of that. I see myself as the conduit between customer and business to
yeah.
harness those insights and sort of shape the future of the business. But working for Bendon customers is such a gift. Like I said, we have some of the most loyal, passionate customers I've ever come across. They're really engaged with our products and with our service that we offer. And so we just have access to a wealth of customer insight and feedback. And so I'm really driven to try to make that relationship with our customers one of reciprocity.
Mhm.
So in return, for their loyalty and the engagement that they give us, I'm working on ways that we can give back. So on top of obviously beautiful
Yeah.
quality lingerie, we're looking at breast education and awareness
Mhm.
as a high priority, working on environmental and sustainability initiatives, and also just trying to make life easier for customers by having real data integrity to
Mm.
drive a more personalized experience. And again, to make it concrete, um, if there's 70 different bra sizes and you want to know which size and style you bought last time you shopped with us, making
Mm.
that really easy for you, and then
Mm.
recommending other products that are, tick those right boxes in terms of what's important to you as a customer.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it is. It comes back to sort of normalizing the conversation and education around what fits and health and all of those things. I think it's great. I guess have you had any challenges that have presented itself over the last? I know you've been in the business for 5 months, but it's probably been a lot of information in those 5 months. But have you had any? Yeah, what are the challenges that have been presented to you, and how? I guess what have you learned, and how are you going to fight those in the future, for want of a better phrase?
Hmm. I mean, it is quite a short tenure.
Mm,
And I'm sure you and everybody in the industry can appreciate the lockdown challenges and the massive
true.
volumes that have been going through our distribution centre.
Yeah.
So we are, New Zealand based, New Zealand owned and run, and our distribution centre here services all of our Australian, New Zealand e-com customers, all of our retail and outlet businesses, and
Mm,
all of our international wholesale customers as well. And so, things have been quite congested in there. That has been a huge challenge. And as somebody who, is championing our area of the business, you do actually need to take a whole of business lens on those priorities, because actually everybody has got a valid reason why their thing is really important and needs to go first. And so we try to work as one team and make the best decisions for the customer and the business. So that, that's sort of something that's been quite extreme over the last few months with with the pandemic and
yeah.
lockdown. um, but I just sort of think that what has happened for us as a business, and last year what was happening with the clients that I was working with, is necessity is the mother of invention, right? So
Mhm.
everybody has kind of had to pivot their operations in certain ways and look at retail through a new lens. And just like one example of that is a massive growth in online shopping in the over 50s.
Mm,
And some of those people having their first ever online shopping experience and being pleasantly surprised at
yes.
how convenient it is.
Yeah.
But I think that's something that we can all take forward out of these challenges. That's one example. But, how have your customers' needs and behaviors changed over this time? What are their goals, what are their fears, and how do their kind of past experience shape expectations. That's all kind of in a state of flux at the moment,
Yeah.
and so something to keep a real close eye on.
Yeah, it's always it's kind of always evolving. In next year, or this time next year, it'll be very different to how it is
Different
now. So
again.
it's always
Yeah,
constantly kind of reviewing and keeping an eye on that and having a look back and a look forward. I guess thinking about going forward, is there anything that you think as a business you might leave behind and say this is how we used to do this, or this is what we had, but actually the future is over here and we're not going to be continuing that, whatever it be? Is there anything you might leave
I think
behind?
I'm really lucky being 5 months into this
Yeah.
role, in that I was the last member of the lead team to kind of
Mm,
the jigsaw to put into place.
mhm,
And there's been a lot of great work that has been done on bringing Bendon back, and a lot of old behaviours and processes that have been left behind. So the
that's
challenge for us is really to put our money where our mouth is and actually see those, actually leave those changes in the past. But, we're really committed to it. We're very tight as a lead team, and we're very clear on our ambitions for the next 12 years. So, sorry, 12 years, maybe not 12 years, 12 months.
12 months.
I'm like, let's not even think about what's happening in 12 years.
Yeah, that's cool. And I guess, Jen, just sort of like thinking about, what's been really interesting talking to you is around, I guess, your focus on your customers, and I guess a focus on data. You've mentioned that a few times. Data is really important. Pulling that together, really understanding that, and using that to make decisions for what's next for the business. If you were talking to a retailer now, or they were chatting to you about and asking you for some advice, especially heading into 2022. I know we've had a big 2021, but fingers crossed it's a little bit different next year. What advice would you give? What advice would you give retailers, especially in that online space?
I mean, it's kind of the same message, honestly, Jodie. It's about thinking about how you can bring the outside in. So, it's very easy to default to um, customer views that are close to you, right?
Yes.
So, somebody that you've talked to in a store, your mum, your friends,
Mhm.
and everything like that. And I do that as well. but I sort of recognize that there is a bit of an echo chamber there. And I think that for an organization like us, which, our stated vision is every woman, we actually need to broaden the net, cast a wider net. And because there's so much change in shopper behaviors and expectations, it's really just about how can you continuously bring the outside in and make sure that you've got your decision making is grounded in customer insight. That should be the driving force behind the choices that you're making and what you're prioritizing in the near term.
Yeah, that's great. It's a lot on, Jenny. Sounds like you've got a lot on next year.
What's new?
Yeah, that's true. What's new? I guess for anyone that's watching you and looking at what you've achieved over the last few months and what you've had to deal with in terms of lockdowns and renovations and all of the the work, so the life as well as work. How do you keep that in balance? How do you manage to do that?
Honestly, it hasn't been easy. It's been incredibly difficult with that combination of lockdown, living in a small rental with 3 kids and everything else to boot. And it's actually what it's done is it cemented something that had already been a change that I was making. So when I was younger, I used to try and compartmentalize a lot, breaking up my life into kind of, work and friends and relationship and kids and everything like that. But then you're just constantly context switching and you can find you like entering into different modes. So the balance now that I really strive for is to just bring my whole self into whatever I do. And that's a lot of things. That's somebody with high expectations. That's somebody who's a nerd, that's somebody who has a goofy sense of humor, that's somebody who's super empathetic and very maternal, not just with my own kids. And I'm all of these things. So while I have like the highest expectations of the performance of my team, I also let my kids interrupt on calls to say hi, and I share more of myself and my life and my sort of out of work personality than I ever have done before. Because that
Right.
sort of openness and vulnerability is a trait I admire in other leaders. And I think it also opens the door for people in my team to do the same. So
I think,
I think, when we've been working at home for 4 months, we've literally been in other people's houses, and to try and pretend that there's some, barrier there. I'm just sort of leaning into I'm all of the things at the time and I'm at peace with that.
yeah, and that's great.
Having said that, I do try to just have a few minutes each day, just to do something for me, whether that's a run or a walk or just reading a book, just a tiny little bit of a circuit breaker where I don't have any responsibilities. That's really helpful as well.
And that's great. As I said, I think you recently shared with me that you've run a half marathon recently. So congratulations for that as well. Huge achievement, which you did over the last few months. So I take my hat off to you. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And that's great for having that work-life balance. I think it's great to show up, your full self. So fantastic. And on that note, Jen, I just want to thank you for today. It's been so interesting to chat to you. Really, really lovely to hear where Bendon's come from and going. And especially again, like I say, at this time of year, I just can't thank you enough for taking time out of your second to last Friday before you break up for the Christmas break. If there's anything that I guess for the viewers, if there's anything that you want to know about Bendon, then feel free to reach out to Jenny as she's on LinkedIn. But otherwise, thank you so much, Jen. I really, really appreciate your time. Merry Christmas.
Kia ora, Jodie. It was lovely to have a nice kōrero with you. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.